Well, good morning, everybody. It's always something, isn't it? It's always something. This is why we have to stay on top of it every single day. Because these people never stop trying to pull a fast one on the American people. And unless you've got your finger on the pulse and you're actually watching the incremental step-by-step gradualism that they use to change our lives against our will, right? This is supposed to be our world. And, as Americans, we're pushing this concept of democracy, but in our own country, we're doing the opposite of that. The opposite of what people really want. And this is why I tell people, there's no way in heck that the most powerful controllers of the world would ever leave the fate of America up to the chance of a vote. These people already have a track record, don't they? Look what they're doing with climate change. It's something that most people don't want, but yet they're trying to push it. And that's a prime example of how they impose their will onto us, and that this whole voting thing is all a farce. Now, what am I on about this morning? Well, to my shock and horror, one of you sent me something. I couldn't even believe it. I had to look it up. It took me 24 hours to even absorb what was being told to me from several of you. The very conservative state of Arkansas has joined the sellout leadership to electrify America.
A big new player is set to tap into a potential electric economic development here in Arkansas.
You have to be kidding me. You ready for this? Right on time for the Great American Crossing eclipses, the X eclipse. Exxon is now joining the lithium mining sellout crowd. Front and center is Arkansas.
Today, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders announced that ExxonMobil will start drilling for lithium in the southwest part of the state.
Now, what makes this interesting is there's so much spiritual synchronicity here, isn't there? ExxonMobil, the double X's, mobile. I know it's not mobile phones, but all of this is going to play a part in our electric kingdom future.
They hope to extract the essential component for batteries out of what's called the Smackover Formation.
Smack over the nation. Think of the irony. The Smackover Formation. I mean, are we in the Twilight Zone? It's literally called the Smack the Nation Over the Formation. Look at this. So we went from smacking the nation with needles, now they're going to drill down into the earth. And I've always told you that the earth is symbolic of humanity. And this drilling into the earth is kind of a metaphor for drilling into us, isn't it, with needles? Let's keep listening. See what she has to say.
Miles below the surface is a salty fluid called brine. Lithium is
brine? Let's hear what she has to say here. Let's look at the facial features.
Is extracted from that liquid.
Look at her.
Well, the region has a history as an oil and natural gas producer. Well, now
guilty as charged. Sell out.
Exxon plans to be an early player.
Now, just so you know, the reason why I'm so upset about this is that nobody in Arkansas, unless you're in one of the bigger cities where it's liberal, nobody wants these electric cars. And they definitely don't want to be part of the electric future. So how is this happening? Well, we're going to explain all that today. It's happening because they gave us the far right Huckabee, right? The governor who's willing to come out and say, we're no longer going to ever again force people to get a smack the nation, and we're never ever going to shut down businesses in this great state of Arkansas. Why did they give us a far right person like that? Because so they could pull this off. It's called the bait and switch.
In this emerging renewable industry.
Not only will we tap into a potentially vast new source.
Listen to him. He's so scared because he knows. Listen to his voice trembling.
New source of lithium, but we'll also use modern manufacturing processes. Not only will we tap into a potentially vast new source of lithium, but we'll also use modern manufacturing processes that are far less intrusive and significantly lower environmental impact than traditional methods.
The sellouts, take a good look at them. They're all in on this. They're all getting a paycheck from this lithium mine. Make no mistake. I'm so upset this morning. I can't even believe this. And our own conservatives will not stand up. Because why? Because Huckabee's a conservative. She stands up for the rest of our values. So, now let's dig into this a little bit. Oh, man. So, what are they doing? They're ramping up for the electric prison, aren't they? Which will be central to the 15-minute city. They need the electric prison. They need the electric cars that only go so far for the electric prison. Why? Well, this is the rise of lithium in America. Now, we started talking about this, and now it has become front and center mainstream. It's not so much about the range of these cars. I mean, that's one thing. But the main thing is that these cars will become connected. They are connected. Now I try to keep my finger on the pulse of some channels on YouTube that aren't even in the truth community. Why? Because then you can see what's really going on. Yes, we all know the main highlight points of truth, right? The moon, the shape of the earth, the Bible, all those things we already know about. But what's going on that they're trying to pull us a fast one on us? So I follow like a mechanic channel. He's got millions of subscribers. And he tells me what's going on with the up and coming, technologies. Now he hates electric vehicles and he, pulls no bones about it when he talks about it on his channel. But the reason why I watch him is because he tells me all the intricacies of these electric cars and what his customers are experiencing. And what they can do is it's the connectivity of the car that's the concern. It's the fact that it's tied into the 5G, 6G network, correct? Which gives it real-time data. I'm going to keep talking about this till we all understand what's going on. Because a lot of people think this is no big deal, but it really, really is. These cars are connected. They've snuck this connectivity in because a car doesn't really need to be connected, does it? They tried with OnStar in gas vehicles, didn't they? And that didn't work because people are like, I don't really need OnStar. So we can't turn your vehicle off. We can't track your vehicle. Okay, well then let's bring in electric vehicles. And we'll say that in order to have driverless capabilities, we have to connect it, right? And we have to have 5G and 6G so that we have a robust network that's real time for driverless ability. And we're going to help you. We're here to help when your car gets stranded. But secretly, this connectivity allows your car to be tracked. It allows it to be turned off when they want to. This is not conspiracy, you guys. They can literally turn your car off. Now, they won't do it while you're driving the car, but if you fail to pay your lease, they disable your car remotely. That's too much power. And then what they'll do is when these 15-minute cities emerge, they're going to have all of us will have our electric cars. We can go within 15 minutes and they're going to say, oh, you can't go outside that boundary. Otherwise, the car turns off. So what do? You have no transportation. Are you going to cross that vast wilderness or desert to get to see your mother? No, you're not. Because there's no way to do it. Because we sold out to the electric kingdom. This is why we have to hold our politicians accountable. Even Sarah Huckabee. You have to say something. Even if you're conservative. Because this is a bipartisan control mechanism that's coming. Nobody wants these things. They can't even sell them. That's another reason why I subscribe to channels outside the truth community. For instance, Scotty Kilmer. I'll just say his name. He's kind of an obnoxious guy, but he's got millions of subscribers and he's a mechanic for 50-something years. And he knows what's going on. And so Scotty talks about nobody's buying these electric cars. They're stacking up in warehouses. So if the market isn't asking for this, why do they keep pushing it on us? And that is the question you need to ask yourself. Now you can verify everything I say today. I'm not making any of this up. So they're ramping up for this electric prison. And this is now the rise of lithium in America. We now have 2 confirmed lithium mines being built as we speak. one in Thacker Pass, Black Rock Desert, above Burning Man in a caldera of a volcano, and another one now in southern Arkansas in the Smackover Formation. So we got smacked the nation, now we got smacked up beside the head. I remember when I was little, anytime, back then, parents used to hit their kids. If I said something, I got smacked in the back of the head. This is what this feels like is happening because nobody's waking up to it. Anyway, let's keep going here. Man. So, what else are we going to look at today? Well, we're going to look at the mental health component to lithium as well. Because mind control, right, which is what lithium does, and I know about this because God is amazing, isn't he? And what did he say to me? What has he held in my mind? You only have certain memories that you hold on to, right? You only have certain memories that kind of keep recurring in your mind. You don't remember every detail of your childhood, for instance, and people in your life, but you remember what God wants you to remember. And one thing that God wanted me to remember was a particular thing about my father. My father was on lithium, and for some reason, that's always been in my mind. And I don't know why. And when I was younger, before I woke up, I thought, that's weird that they would give a person an element of the earth for their brain. Like, what is that about? And I didn't even know about all this yet. But then now it's all coming full circle. God made me remember that so we could talk about it today. Because lithium is essentially really about mind control, isn't it? It's about people control, mind control, and it will play the central part in the electric kingdom control mechanism as the fuel for batteries. Your brain is like a battery. And they're giving people this, they're saying, to treat bipolar disorder. Now, I don't know what that did for my father. He had lots of issues and problems, but he was on lithium and I remembered that, and it's tying directly into what we're talking about today. Now, unfortunately, we were right about the rise of lithium mines and electric vehicles that they power, because a lithium mine is coming to a town near you. Now, we're going to dig into lithium because guess what? There's a lot of pollution that occurs with lithium. Look at this. They even admitted here, electrification is going to be a major component of the energy transition. You think? Wow. So here they come. Well, now what can we do? Now, I guarantee you, no matter how many people show up to protest this, they're going to say, oh, they're just crazy extremists. This is what they're going to say. Oh, you're extremists if you don't believe in climate change. We need this. And then they'll whitewash the process, which we're going to go into very high detail today of how this process works, how to get this out of the ground, how much pollution it causes. Look at these huge brine evaporation ponds in Nevada. They literally pull groundwater up that has some salt in it. It's called brine. And they let it sit out here and out in the open. Nothing can live here. Birds can't come here because it's super salty. You're essentially creating dead seas is what you're doing. You're creating these vast areas of just deadness. And then when it all evaporates, they go in and scrape up and process the lithium. Now, in certain lithium processing, processes, they can produce up to 500 tons of sulfuric acid per day. Sulfuric acid melts everything. Look at this, Daily Mail. There's lithium in them there, Arkansas Hill, tiny town of Magnolia that sits on multi-billion-dollar gold mine of precious metals, is set to become the epicenter of electric vehicle and mobile battery boom. So, Magnolia. Now, there's probably spiritual meaning to that word, I'm sure. We're not going to go too deep down the rabbit hole. But look at this. The irony is that U.S.'s move from fossil fuels to lithium-powered electric batteries is not entirely environmentally friendly. To extract 1 ton of lithium requires 500,000 liters of water and can result in the poisoning of reservoirs and related health problems. Here's the Smackover Formation of the nation. Saltwater brine Now, the saltwater brine apparently has small amounts of lithium in it, but here's the map. It's southern Arkansas. Now, I'm well above this water table. This won't affect me directly. I'm way up in north central Arkansas. But what about all the people in Louisiana? What about all the people in Mississippi and everybody downstream of the Mississippi from here? They're screwed. So, this is why I'm upset, you guys. Now, what is this Smackover brine formation? Well, they literally pull lithium out of the ground salt water called brine above the water table. And it's going to be, like I said, upstream of Mississippi and Louisiana. What could go wrong there, right? Now let's get into Wikipedia about how this lithium is processed, because this is crazy. Oh, let me show you the Smackover Formation, a little bit of a wide angle view of this. So it goes all the way across Louisiana mostly, and it starts up in Arkansas, goes all the way across Mississippi and Alabama. This is the South. These are the poorest people in our country, and they're getting smacked over once again. The Smackover oil field. Sometimes I wonder if these people don't have some kind of time machine. I mean, they're like literally named this stuff on like some kind of spiritual level. Look at this, an extensive porous and permeable limestone aquifer. Now this goes all the way back to all the other stuff a lot of people are talking about these underground caves and caverns. Notice how all the people that have run to the hills up this part of Arkansas, they're all safe in their caves, but then all these people down here are screwed basically. This is going to leach into the groundwater, or could leach into the groundwater and everything else. Let's get into the manufacturing process of lithium. Now, we had already touched on this a while ago, right? As we were looking at the Thacker Pass, right? And how they were planning on getting that lithium out of the ground. But let's look at what they have to say about this. I got to look it up. All right, here we go. Environmental issues of lithium, okay? It says here, the manufacturing process of lithium, including the solvent and mining waste. Solvents? What could go wrong with that? Presents significant environmental and health hazards. Lithium extraction can be fatal to aquatic life due to water pollution. It is known to cause surface water contamination, drinking water contamination, respiratory problems, ecosystem degradation, and landscape damage. Now, people might argue, well, Casey, what about all the environmental damage of, oil? Oil. Well, why are we going to add another problem on top of a problem, right? Now, they're saying in here, too, that they're going to actually be able to use some of these oil rigs to also mine through the same oil holes or whatever wells for lithium. Not all of them, but some of them, where it's feasible. So, this is crazy, right? We're actually switching from an oil-based economy to lithium. I've never in my life would I have imagined that this was going to happen. Let's keep reading here. It says, it also leads to unsustainable water consumption in arid regions. 1.9 million liters per ton of lithium. Massive byproduct generation of lithium extraction also presents unsolved problems, such as large amounts of magnesium and lime waste. Then they go to talk about a different mining method. So every method that's used is no bueno. They talk here about open pit mining. So they literally scrape off the top of a mountain. And this type of mining competes with brine extraction mining. Environmental concerns include wildlife habitat degradation, which we talked about a little bit earlier, potable water pollution, including arsenic and antimony contamination, unsustainable water table reduction, and massive mining waste, including radioactive uranium byproduct and sulfuric acid discharge, which we talked about as well. Wow. What do we do, you guys? Well, we should never stop trying to wake people up. Look, this is back on people. We're the ones allowing this to happen. We're the ones building this and buying the lies that they're selling us about this, aren't we? So the more people you can wake up, you could at least make an impact. So, the lithium mines of Arkansas that nobody wants. Did they do a vote? Of course not. And this mine will be part and parcel to transition America into the electric kingdom and away from gasoline, away from natural gas, which I can guarantee you most people in Arkansas do not want to ever part with that, but they're not making the connection. They're not making the connection. And this is what upsets me, because Huckabee is preying on people's ignorance, isn't she? She's saying one thing, doing another. It's the same Trump playbook. Say one thing, do another. Get everybody riled up, and then do nothing about it or do the opposite. And now you see how the right-left works. Now, I really wanted to like Huckabee, but here is what she came to do, and here was her job. Her job was to allow the lithium mine. What I'm realizing about these politicians is literally they're elected to do one thing. Okay? Obama's job was to electronic medical records, to convert everything to medical records. That was his big thing. And to soften the target when it came to moral issues of gender. That was his job. Okay? That's what he came to do. Clinton's job was to introduce the internet and soften the target when it came to the Middle East. That was his job. Even though we weren't all the way in, it was like the concept of, strikes and things like that, hitting people here and there. Bush's job was 9/11. And who else's job? Trump's job was the virus and the cure, right? That was his job. That was his main thing. And every one of these politicians had a main theme. And so Huckabee's job is open a lithium mine in Arkansas. And what they do is they patronize you about things that don't matter anymore. Like her saying that she'll never shut down small businesses again and force vaccines on Arkansas. Well, they're done with that phase for now. They're not, it's nothing like it was 3 years ago where everyone had to worry about their job, right? Now, not to say they're not going to reopen that playbook and put it back on the center stage. They might at some point, and they will. But her words don't mean anything right now. They would have meant something if she was governor 4 years ago, but they don't mean anything now because they already accomplished what they came to do with that. So behind her backs, she's making a deal to allow this massive lithium mine that will shift our economy away from natural gas and gasoline against the wishes of the Arkansas people. And they don't even realize it's happening. Now, there's all kinds of human rights issues surrounding lithium as well. But, it's all being ignored. Apparently, there's a lot of Native American protests going on against these mines. And nobody cares because the lawyers get in there and they just steamroll over everybody because they do what they want to do. Voting doesn't matter anymore because if it did, this wouldn't be happening. So, let's sum this up. The reason why we have a concern about electric vehicles and these batteries, one is because of the increased pollution and the irony of it, and them telling us one thing, that this is going to be sustainable, but in fact it's the opposite is true. And so what they'll do is they'll have the liberals oppose this, right? The liberals will come out, mark my words, it's going to happen. The liberals will say, we don't, look at the Republicans, they're just polluting with lithium. They're going to pollute with lithium. And then when the liberals come out and do that, nobody on the right will want to side with them, will they? This is how they mind control you. They'll say, hey, we have to. And now all of a sudden you're going to have right-leaning people believing in electric cars. Now, what else is this about? Connectivity and control. Electric vehicle owners are already complaining that the vehicle manufacturers can remotely shut down your car if you don't pay your lease. And soon after that, they'll shut down your car if you don't comply socially, or if you try to break whatever rule, arbitrary rule they say that, oh, because of climate change, you can't drive more than so many miles. And if you do, well, we're not going to arrest you or anything. We'll just turn your car off when you drive outside your 15 minutes that you're allowed to drive. Because, we can't have people just driving from city to city anymore. Why do you even need to? You got everything you need right here. This is the beginnings of it. Now, what else is going on? Well, let's read a little bit more about this. Boy, I really like Daily Mail because they have all these images and stuff, right? They back up what they say. Let's read this. So, ExxonMobil is planning to build one of the world's largest lithium processing facilities near the town with the capacity to produce 75,000 to 100,000 metric tons of lithium a year, which would represent 15% of the world's lithium production. Now, just so you know, this is the lithium race that's happening right now. Let's see here, production. Let's see if we can find this graph here. A lot to see on this page. Let's go down here. Now, a lot of this lithium is being produced in China, as well as Australia, as well as South America. Look at the price of lithium over the past few years, 2020 to 2022, and lithium did almost exactly what copper did. Remember I told you the copper was going to be a central component of the electric kingdom? Now, I don't invest in this economy at all, but some of you bought copper shares or whatever, and then copper like tripled or doubled in value. Lithium did the same thing. And back here, we were already talking about the electric kingdom in 2020, weren't we? And all the components of it. And I said it wasn't going away, even though the demand for electric vehicles was not there. And so some of you might have invested in lithium too. Again, I don't invest in this stuff, but if you had in 2020, you would have went from $10,000 to $80,000, almost a 10-time increase. Now, I know stocks don't work that way, but this is the value of it. Now, here are the top producers of lithium in the world. This is very important to take note of this, because this was on the Economist cover yesterday that we covered, wasn't it? Remember, we saw the map of Australia and South America, and in between them was Biden and Xi Jinping. Well, this is why they showed that map, because Australia, number one producer, then South America, Chile and Argentina and Brazil, they actually occupy 3 of the spots. And then, of course, China. These are the top 5 places to look at. And after that, none of the others even come close. The United States is way down here, but guess what? It's going to move up the ranks here. All the way up, probably right up here underneath China. Now you're starting to see the big picture. Now you're starting to see the hidden hand playing out, hiding in plain sight of what these people plan to do. At the expense of the American people. So, what else do they say here? Well, this process, I think it's over here. It's a new technology. It uses solvents, membranes, and filters to produce lithium from brine. Engineers and executives that are pushing this method have said it is superior to open pit mines or evaporation ponds because it is faster and wastes less water, but nobody successfully proved that the approach can produce enough lithium for millions of cars or stationary batteries. Exxon, which purchased drilling rights on 120,000 acres in Arkansas this year, said it would pump leftover brine back in the ground. What could go wrong with that? What could go wrong with using solvents and then pumping it back in the underground? Oh, nothing could go wrong there. Now, we already talked about the spiritual level, even of the name Exxon, with the two X's in it. Xing out the man, the burning of the man, right? I've been talking all about that. Now, I looked up lithium to see what other uses. That's where we're going to get into the medical components of this as well. Because lithium is used, of course, in mental health as an antidepressant, mood stabilizer, which is basically code for mind control zombie mode. Okay? And I remember my dad saying that because I don't like to take it because I just don't feel anything. I don't feel anything anymore. Right? Oh, by the way, they're now coming out and saying that antidepressants may cause people to lose sensation with their down belows. And it's permanent. So this is where everything's headed. This is what they want. They want people not feeling anything. They also use lithium with thermonuclear weapons, rockets, torpedoes, and nuclear physics. All weapons of war. So, it appears as though we're moving very quickly towards a lithium-based economy. Now, Wikipedia also says here that, here it is. It has been argued that lithium will be one of the main objects of geopolitical competition in a world running on renewable energy and dependent on batteries. And guess what else? Afghanistan just so happens to have a bunch of lithium in it as well. You guys, these people are 10 to 15 steps ahead of us. Did they know when they went into Afghanistan that at some point we were going to convert to the electric kingdom? I truly believe that that could have been the case. Now, these deposits in Afghanistan were actually found by the Soviets during the Soviet era from 1979 to 89, before the United States ever got there. But the Department of Defense estimated the lithium reserves in Afghanistan to amount to the ones in Bolivia and dubbed it as a potential Saudi Arabia of lithium. So essentially, we've already conquered Afghanistan. Even though we pulled out, we have all our little puppets over there ready to roll when we need lithium for the electric kingdom. Notice how we're transitioning away from oil. So, crazy, right? And now you understand why I titled the show The IL-Lithium-ati. Because the lithium batteries will become the illumination of the electric kingdom. Wow. Well, let me go back into the chat. Oh, I wanted to show you guys this one last thing. Now, lithium was already disclosed in the Star Trek universe. Remember the dilithium material, the dilithium crystals that was used in time travel to open portals, go to other universes, essentially. Well, I think that they were telling us something, weren't they? All right. So if we can get people to snap out of the team and contest mode, liberals versus conservatives, if we could get people to snap out of that, understand we're being played. Yes, there are liberal people and yes, there are conservative people. But when it comes to the levels of leadership, that no longer applies. It's just not true anymore. The people in leadership are all on the same side. So once we get people to snap out of that, we can just hold our politicians accountable and stop worrying about who we think we're going to get to win, because it doesn't matter who wins. So, one last summary for anyone that has any questions about this. 5G, 6G, and beyond, signed by Trump, will power the driverless cars and connectivity and their ability to shut them off and to track you. Right there, you've already lost all your privacy and rights. The lithium powers the vehicles and is being mined out of the ground as a bipartisan effort by both Democrats and Republicans, and that exposes the right-left paradigm. Essentially, the grid will have complete control of your freedom to move and will track you. Now, on Sunday, we're going to skip tomorrow as we always do. We'll be back on Sunday with Chinese President Xi Jinping. He was literally booed out of San Francisco yesterday by crowds of protesters. And all of the sellouts showed up to try to convince us why we should all work with China and why China is so great. And why we should all sell out too. There were some arrests made. They didn't want to embarrass the Chinese president. What else are we going to talk about on Sunday? Well, Snoop Dogg is giving up cannabis. You guys, sometimes I feel like I live in the Twilight Zone. That was his signature identity, his daily weed habit, his persona that made him famous. The weed, fueled songs where he's stoned out of his mind. The role model that convinced millions of children and young teens that it was okay to smoke weed 3 or 4 times a day. And now all of a sudden he's quitting? No, you don't just get to do that. You need to explain to everyone why you're quitting. What, do you have a lung infection? You got mold in your lungs? Can you not breathe? What's going on, Snoop Dogg? Tell us the truth. That's the least you can do. Look, it's okay to probably partake once or twice a week like people used to back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. On the weekend. But to try to convince us that it's okay to put in a burning thing into your lungs 4 or 5 times a day and you're going to be completely normal after 10 years is simply a lie. So we'll talk about that on Sunday. And then, guess what? Something else they slipped by us. Eyes wide open. You ready for this? There's a 51st American state. Did you know that? What are you talking about, Casey? There's only 50 states. Nope. Guess what the 51st state is? Let's see who gets the answer to this. Guess what the 51st state is? It's not China, but it's close. I mean, it might be China. We'll talk about all that on Sunday, but what do you think the 51st state is? There was a troll about 6 or 7 years ago, and his name was Chinada. I always thought, what does that mean? Well, it's becoming very clear what that means. Now I get it. Really annoying channel, too. But anyway, he's gone. What's the 50? There you go. Canada! 51st American state. Yes, Canada owns 1/50th of America's livable land. Now, I said livable land, okay? Because only half of America, 47%, is actually inhabited by people. The other half is empty. And Canada owns 1% of that. So that's 1/50th. So that means we have a 51st state called Canada. And we'll also get into the China connection as well. How China owns so much Canadian land and how that might be connected to how much U.S. land Canada owns. Even though China doesn't own that, maybe there's some kind of rope-a-dope that they're pulling on us. And we'll talk about if the two are connected. And I'll show you proof of all this. I'll show you all the statistics and all the backup. And I'll put links to all of today's show in the pinned comment, as I always do. You guys, the show is every day. We have to check these people because so many people are sleeping the right left paradigm. They're overlooking what's happening in plain sight. Bipartisan efforts to bring us all under one world order, under the electrification of the world. They're all working together, right and left. And all these other issues that everyone's fighting about are immaterial when you can't get in your car and drive anywhere and you're trapped and they can turn you off through electricity. None of these issues that they're talking about are going to matter at some point if we don't wake up and at least raise awareness to all this stuff. Okay? UK owns over 50% of Canada. Yes. So all you got to do is follow the money, follow who owns the land, and you'll get your answer about everything. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. Good morning. Welcome back. Snoop Dogg. I'm giving up the pot, man. Oh, I don't do a really good Snoop Dogg impersonation. If I did, I'd probably have to bleep it out. Unbelievable. Yes, we probably pay our taxes to the Crown of England. We never really did get independence from them. I think it's still all connected. Let's hope Elon doesn't break the firmament tomorrow. I've heard grumblings about that. What's that all about? Please fill me in. I haven't really looked into that yet. And if I do look into it and I find something, I'll present it on Sunday's show. Now, the word lithium means clay or like rock. That's what lith means. So, weird, right? Because the book of Daniel says that the last world power will be steel mixed with watery clay. So we've already gone through the steel, right? We already have the steel everywhere. Everything's about steel. And now it's watery clay. It's the lithium, right? So we went from, remember, even on 9/11, there was this big thing about steel. And then when the buildings came down, all that steel was shipped to China. Remember? And then now China is the world's largest producer of steel. And now we're getting into the clay, the lithium, to numb the minds of humanity. All this stuff is biblical. All right. God help us. Jeez. Yeah, China. Remember? Do one thing, say another. There's actually video of Trump walking around with Xi Jinping. I couldn't believe it during my research yesterday. I was like, wait a minute. He had all the people, all the conservatives thinking we were going to stick it to China and blah, 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 right? He's walking around with Xi Jinping, right? And then he was like doing, blaming China for the China virus, remember? Well, I think he was part of the whole thing, to be honest with you. So, and they're just probably laughing. They just laugh at us. They laugh at the sleep people who still believe in the right-left paradigm. Yeah. At least you guys are awake. Yes, they can make money out of nothing while they enslave the rest of us, make us all work, 40, 60 hours a week, right? So, what else? Yeah, guess what? So, Snoop Dogg, he's probably quitting cannabis, but guess what? He's probably going to do something different, won't he? He'll sell something else, and people will buy it. He'll say, I'm trying to get over into some other side of the business. Maybe I'll try to get into some energy drinks. That's probably a better impersonation of Snoop Dogg, right? I'm trying to get paid. Martha, you want to come over here and get paid with me? Come on now, girl. It's unbelievable. Mark my words, he'll go from cannabis to something else and people will buy it. Maybe some say CBD, maybe possible, but he says he's giving it up, all of it. Yeah, he'll team up with Martha Stewart and he'll push like energy drinks or something. Crystal asked, was Trump's sister a sacrifice? We talked about that. We did a whole show on that. So that was like 3 or 4 days ago, if you want to check that out. I think Trump's sister is in the title. All right. Now, the frustration goes out to the deception. How these people have such mind control over other people, okay? And literally, I saw friends of mine who looked up to Snoop Dogg as that lifestyle, and it kind of justified it. So when you saw people stoned out of their mind every single day, it became not such a big deal, did it? Because Snoop Dogg was allowed to do it in center stage, right? And this was all part of the programming to decriminalize people hurting themselves, essentially, by overindulging. Look, like I said, it's probably okay to do a little bit of it, but for anybody to say that it's okay to put a burnt thing into your lungs every single day, and here's the frustration too. We talked about this about 10 years ago. Oh, I got attacked. There's no proof or evidence of what you're saying. It's completely untrue. And people literally thought, people that I knew, you can burn this stuff and put it in your lungs. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other methods that you'd be able to do this that would be safer, but back then they were like, blaze it up, right? And now all of a sudden, all these people have health problems, and now they're quitting, and then they won't go back and say they're sorry. They won't go back and talk about the influence they had on other people, telling them that it was okay, and all these blanket statements that cannabis cures everything, and that it's impossible for it to be harmful because it grows out of the earth. Well, guess what? Poison ivy and poison oak grows out of the earth too. And you probably have receptors in your body that react to that as well, which is what causes you to itch and have a reaction. So not everything that grows out of the earth is good for you. And some of it may be good for you, but in moderation, which is what the Bible says. Moderation. And so these people now, here we are 10 years later after this whole legalization and, this change in the culture where everybody's like shifted away from, other things. And now they've adopted the weed life or the weed persona. And what I'm talking about is the daily consumption, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just to get through life. Now, all of a sudden, the health problems are emerging. Remember we did the show on greening out? Everyone said I was crazy. I said, look, you guys, this is an emerging thing. You can literally green out. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then people came on, of course. I don't know if they were trolls or people that completely brainwashed. But they're like, you're just making stuff up. There's no evidence. Of course, there's not going to be a study on this. I was going off of what I saw personally in people that I knew who smoked weed every day. And I would see them cough so bad, they would literally vomit. And then they couldn't eat anything. They became nauseous. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I feel nauseous. Well, wait a minute. And they're like, I'll just smoke more weed because it'll help me be less nauseous. And because that's what weed does at low levels, right? But if you're smoking every day, it reverses the polarity of the histamine receptor. And it actually causes you to be nauseous. Oh, but I was crazy back then. Well, now the truth is coming out. But look what's happened. All the damage done. Now, not to say that my 2 or 3 videos on it that I did on it would have changed the world or raised awareness, but this goes to show you that sometimes God puts people ahead of the curve. And if you listen to the mainstream or you listen to people who want to hold on to that vice, they're going to lie to you. They're not going to tell you the truth. And I'll give you another example. I myself, earlier in my life, used to consume a lot more alcohol than I do now. And nobody could have ever told me that that was going to, eventually kill me or hurt me, right? And so luckily, God blessed me, so I don't have any long-term health effects. But I've seen a lot of people that do have long-term health effects. Because what did the culture say back then? Oh, they allowed alcohol. but they didn't allow weed. And then they just shift it. Once they want to hook people in and to new vice, they just shift the culture, don't they? And that's what they did with cannabis. So we'll get into all that on Sunday. I don't want to talk too much about it today because I want to give this some time and read the article on it. All right. Yeah. And I know people are saying the weed now is different, but let's get to the bottom of it, right? The real reason why people are having effects, it's not just because of that. It's because the culture shifted from people doing it on the weekends to every day, and not just once a day. At the end of the day, it's all day long. Let's be honest about it, okay? Let's be honest about it. This is how the culture shifted. And it became acceptable. If you have a card, if you have a medical card, you can show up to work stoned if you want. Because you have a medical card. It's for medical, right? And there are people that live their whole life stoned. That's just the truth, okay? And that changed. There was never that thing where 30%... You guys, in California, literally 30% of the people I knew were stoned all day long, okay? And they worked. Some of them. Others were just disabled. 30%. It was never that high for people smoking weed all day long. Back when I was younger, it was, when we, as teens, when we would get out of the house and like one person had a joint and everyone shared it. Okay. And that was like once on the weekend. But now it's every single day. So, and then, of course, there are all the dangers of it, like you said, being laced and all that. But to me, that's periphery. Yes, those are concerns and part of it. But we have a weed culture now, and it's different than it used to be. It almost is gone back to the 60s and 70s, hasn't it? In terms of the amount of people that smoke it. But now, yes, the weed has changed. It's a lot more potent, a lot more THC. So, all right, you guys. I'll pop off of here. Enough of me. Well, let me see what you guys are up to. Is there anything you guys want to talk about before we get off here today? It is Friday. I should try to hang out a little bit longer with you guys. Yeah, alcohol is not good for you either. But notice how they minimize that. Every single scene you see in some of these movies, someone's pouring a drink, aren't they? And that's to trigger you. And then alcohol will kill you quicker than anything. That will kill your insides. But weed will also can hurt your lungs, can hurt. I'm not saying it always will, but if you're burning something and putting in your lungs, that's not good. So, all right. Hey, thanks for the super chat there. Thanks, Natasha. Appreciate it. Yep, all these movies show drinking. And those are triggers to get you to go, ooh, that'd be nice to pour a glass of that, I usually have a 2 to 3 drink limit. That's it. And that's like once a week at the most. All right. What else is going on? Yes, alcohol is spirits. Yeah, keep looking up. We got to keep looking up because this world's ending, isn't it? All right. Yes, coffee can be a vice as well. Yep. I know people that drink a whole pot of coffee, 2 pots of coffee a day. Not good for you. I have 1 cup. Albeit a big cup. It's like let's see. I think it's about 14-ounce cup, 15-ounce, something like that. All right. What else, you guys? Yeah, you have to give your body and mind a chance to recover from these things. If you do it all the time, your body never has a chance to recover. And this is where cancers and things like that can creep in. Yeah, what I learned with coffee, I used to be like a half pot, whole pot drinker when I was much younger, was that you don't get any advantage by drinking more and more and more coffee. Once you get over that edge of the moment you climb out of bed and you need to fire things up, all it takes is 1 cup. Or I guess you could say technically 2 cups, right? Because if it's a big cup, it's really 2 cups, right? In their measuring terms. And that's all you really need, and then your mind is sharp and it carries you on throughout the rest of the day. But if you get that afternoon tiredness and you try to compensate with more coffee, I mean, you can, some people do, and there are whole cultures based around that. I understand that. Certain countries, they'll have an afternoon coffee. But for me personally, it just makes me more tired, right? And I don't get good sleep at night if I have an afternoon coffee. I can't sleep good that night, and then it just keeps snowballing day after day. So what I've learned is I'd rather take a little nap. I'll take like a 10-minute nap, 20-minute nap. If I get tired, that carries me on through into the evening. And then I still am tired for bedtime. And then I wake up in the morning and I do it again. And if I'm really active any particular day, then I don't get tired because my mind is on something else. I'm out in, working out in the farm and all this. And I just, I can stay awake, and then I get a really good night's sleep because I've been active all day. And that happens sometimes as well. Oh, I wanted to give a special thank you to Rose. Rose found my place. This is her first time coming over yesterday. Her and her daughter-in-law, and they dropped off some winter wheat, a whole bag of winter wheat and hay for me. And I was able to toss that out into the grass out here and hopefully get some winter wheat growing. So it helps with the erosion out here. So thank you. Thanks, Rose. Casey, it's called a cannabinoid hyperemesis disorder. Yes. And a lot more people than you realize develop that. Why? And why haven't we heard about it? Because no one wants to talk about it. Because think about it. If they're going to shame us for exposing it, what do you think is going to happen to them when they try to go to their other people that they know who smoke weed and say, hey, I'm getting sick from the weed? They're going to laugh at them. They're going to say, you're full of it. That's not a thing. That's not happening to you. And so they get shamed right out as well. So this is why you haven't heard about it, but it's actually a real thing, and it's actually pretty common for long-term weed smokers. So just moderation. The Bible says everything in moderation. If you're going to have a drink, have 1 or 2. And indulging would be having 3, right? If you're going to smoke and you're burning something, maybe you only want to do that once or twice a week, or try to find a different way to do it. Okay? So, all right. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy your Sabbath. I'll be observing tomorrow. I have to literally tell myself not to work. Okay? Because, I work hard during the week, right? You guys all know we all work hard. You guys are all part of this process too, right? A lot of you guys are researching. I know Tara sends me a bunch of stuff, and, everybody is working. All of you guys send me stuff, and you're researching. I'm researching. It's okay to take a day off. That's what God wants us to do. That's what it's supposed to be, a blessing. It's not supposed to be some kind of order or edict to make you feel guilty if you don't do it. But, maybe we should all start thinking about observing it, or trying to. So that's what I'm going to do. Now it's weird, what is considered work? Because some stuff to me feels therapeutic. If I'm out doing something, in my mind, it's not work. It's me getting exercise. It's me being in nature. It's me. And so maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's a mindset. Maybe it's resting your mind, whatever that means, quieting the mind. And that quieting the mind could mean that you're working on something that someone else might consider work, but for you, it's liberating and free, right? So I love each and every one of you, and I will see you guys on Sunday. Take care, everybody.